Westernspring Television. Ours it is.
All right, it's May 29th, 2023, the day where power changes hands in Nigeria. Welcome to the show, Morning Spring on Westernspring Television. All Nigerian eyes, all African eyes, in fact, all of global eyes on the country this morning.
Absolutely.
The Eagle Square in Abuja, where President Muhammadu Buhari will be leaving office and be handing over to former governor of Lagos State, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. My name is Emmanuel Ujiadegele. Welcome to this special edition of Morning Spring. This morning we'll be focusing on the inauguration of Nigeria's new president. Up until today, he was known as president-elect. But then, in a matter of hours, the status will change today.
No doubt about that. And you can trust us right here from Westernspring Television. We'll be bringing you up to speed as to happenings from Eagle Square. Good to be here. Good morning to you, wherever you are viewing us from. And super glad to be back again. Another week. Another government coming into play in our dear nation, Nigeria. I want to say thank you for always keeping faith with us, and let's do it again. Tornado is my name.
Remember, we're reaching you live from StarTimes channel 190 on the DTT platform, but you can follow the conversations on all our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel so you can follow us live and catch up with episodes of the program. And today, for the coverage of the inauguration, do well to check all of our social media handles for updates. We have the papers ready for you, but we'll take that after the break. But again, let's remind you that power changes hands today in Nigeria. Global leaders and their representatives are already around to attend the program. Security is tight. You've been warned, if you don't have any business, don't go
in and around there.
Yes.
And, you know, the fear of the military is
the beginning of proper behavior.
I saw a couple of armored tanks, the military vehicles parading Abuja yesterday evening on social media. And I wonder, for instance, I just want to go sell pure water around there.
You need accreditation for that. You need to be accredited.
Yeah.
But then that's the situation of things right now. Everything in Nigeria at the moment is focused on Abuja. It's going to be the normal inauguration and the funfair that follows. Of course, we'll get to see all of that in the course of the day. We'll get to hear more on that story. Meanwhile, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the newspapers. Very scanty papers from front page this morning. You can't blame them. It's all about the inauguration. But let's see what some of the stories are on the faces of the papers after this break. All right, welcome back to the show. Let's start with the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch newspaper is where we start our review. We'll begin with the banner headline that says, Tinubu takes oath as president. Nigerians demand quick actions. Tinubu takes oath as president. Nigerians demand quick actions. That's on page 2. Private sector demands blueprint on economy, fuel subsidy. Don't pity me. I asked for the job. I won't give excuses. President-elect. Tinubu worked hard to be elected president, says Buhari. Well, quite interesting writers there, but Nigerians, really demanding quick actions. You can't blame them. Yeah, it's been a topsy-turvy 8 years. It's been a torrid end to the administration, particularly with some of the policies at the tail end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. The fuel scarcity saga, the Naira redesign, that really put a lot of Nigerians in hardship. It did not separate class. There was no class separation in that struggle. Everybody was affected. The old, the young. I was on the street multiple times to see what happened, what was happening in the banks. I could see people who were agitated. Nigerians want quick action. But interestingly, the blueprint on the economy and fuel subsidy, that has been some argument, age-long argument, if you ask me. And
seriously,
President Buhari administration saying it's going to pull out fuel subsidy and then even taking a loan to cushion the effect. But at the tail end, saying, okay, this is no longer my problem. It's now that of the Tinubu administration. Yeah,
obviously, it was surprising, but I remember a couple of years ago, before he became president in 2015. He was one of those who agitated, who stood their grounds against former President Goodluck Jonathan during the fuel subsidy, occupied Nigeria, Ojota, and stuff like that. Then probably we felt, once he gets in, he was just going to take it. Not until when he got in there and he saw what it meant. And I believe he did his best. Posterity will judge every one of us, no matter what. But I know people have said, when we had a couple of interviews with people on the streets to express their mind about this outgoing administration, people have diverse opinion. Some have said, thumbs up to Mr. President, the outgoing Mr. President, and some have thumbs down for him. But, in as much as that, we are insatiable as human beings, but everybody felt the impact of probably certain things that we felt would have benefited us to a large extent, and vis-a-vis. It wasn't too palatable at a point.
Well, it wasn't too palatable. And the president-elect saying nobody should pity him and he won't give excuses. Wait to see how that will play out. Seriously. In the course of his administration. Tinubu worked out to be president-elect, elected president as Buhari. He gave quite a number of comments yesterday during his speech, saying that Nigerians were right to have elected Bola Ahmed Tinubu as their president. Well, above that nameplate, beside the nameplate, African president, U.S., Canadian delegations arrive for inauguration. It's a full house, if we must put it that way. Everybody's interested in what's happening in Nigeria. Some presidents have come in person. Some have sent representatives, and others, sending delegations just to witness today's event. Tinubu now has been given the highest honor in the land, and today will become Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Well, that's all on the Punch newspaper this morning.
And just as Emmanuel had rightly said, the front pages of virtually the papers are just limited with stories. Paid commercials are actually flooded the front pages, but the few stories we can reel out, let me just take them. We have the big bold caption there, the congratulatory messages coming in from quite a whole lot. But world leaders for Tinubu's inauguration. 18 new 10 second term governors take oath. We are awaiting, and also just beside that story, Anyoku 33, the Nation newspaper. I'm taking this from the Nation newspaper, I beg your pardon. Anyoku 339 eminent Nigerians get national awards. I don't know if Emmanuel is among those who will be getting the national award.
Unfortunately, not yet.
Not yet. Yes. I don't know if it's true. The son of the soil here, Davido, got an OON. I am yet to say, but I saw it. It
is true. We read it on the news yesterday. Davido, former governor Adegboyega, former governor BC.
Yeah.
Will be receiving.
I'm actually particular about David. David, probably because of his uncle.
His contribution
to the success. Yes.
No, his contribution to the entertainment industry. The same way we have Victor Osimhen taking a national honor and MFR for his contribution. But I'm not opposed to Victor Osimhen getting honors, but I hope that other past Eagles
will step up and get something as well.
Yes. I hope so. But the fact that we're not even, because of the novelty, it was in novelty now, but because of the magnitude of what's happening in Abuja, people aren't paying attention to the fact that 28 governors will be taking their oath of office. The 18 of them new, coming in on the wave of the February 25th, March 18th election rather, and 10 other governors who secured second term will be taking their oath today. There are some states that have off-cycle elections, so there will be no activities in those states. Osun, for instance, will have no activities. Edo, Anambra, Bayelsa, Kogi, and the likes will have no. Ekiti too, and Edo will have no activities today because of the off-cycle elections. But then also the 339 eminent Nigerians getting national awards. Well, it's good to honor people, make them feel that their contributions to various sectors the country, are not what's it called now? Are not glossed over. They're recognized. They've done their best. They've done their part, and they deserve the honor. I believe that everyone on that list is deserving. Some persons, I was on social media yesterday, and some persons have said some names there should not be there. But then you cannot always please people.
Everybody,
And there are some persons who have served the country, who have served leaders of the country. For instance, I don't know, Bayo Moboro. I saw his tweet with the president, thanking him for the honor. I, for one, don't know how he has served the country to the point of getting.
I think there was one Julo as well.
Yes,
a couple of just as you rightly said, a couple of names like that.
That's why people are asking: do you get the honor simply by being the president's photographer, or by being somebody's assistant or something? So these are questions, but there's a committee who screens and goes over. So you want to ask your questions to direct your questions to that committee. And reps concurring with senators on CBN Act amendment, and then on page 3 of the Nation there.
Okay, that will be it from the Nation newspaper. Just as we rightly said, it's actually flooded with congratulatory messages this morning. Just the top strip. Okay, let me see. I think. That's all.
Let's move over to the Guardian newspaper this morning. The Guardian, cautious optimism as Tinubu offers hope to weary Nigerians. Page 6. Cautious optimism. Well, I find it fascinating that the statement is put that way, the phrase cautious optimism. Nigerians are optimistic. That's what Guardian is saying.
We were in 2015.
Well,
we were.
So now we're treading more carefully. Perhaps lowering expectations to avoid disappointment. And you can't really fault Nigerians, because it's the hope that kills, actually. It's not even the reality. It's the fact that you believe that tomorrow will be better, and tomorrow comes, it's not any better.
Obviously we all aspire and we all look forward to great governance. Let's do this. That statement he made yesterday night, that he asked for it and he's ready to live up to expectations. We listen to such statements like that. I don't just want to credit it alone to the outgoing Mr. President at this moment in time. We had other people, state governors, National Assembly members who promised us heaven on earth, and at the end of the day, I always say that it's either people pray for you or pray for you, or the other way. So Mr. President-elect, who's going to be Mr. President in the next few hours from now, you have a huge task on your hands at this moment in time. Nigerians are watching and waiting patiently because it's been topsy-turvy. It's been torrid to a large extent in the last 8 years in Nigeria for so many Nigerians. And looking at the speed at which insecurity, the economy, the way inflation has taken over the economy, Nigerians are suffering. Mr. President, you have a big task ahead, and we are here. We'll pray that you're able to do the needful and in good health as well. Every Nigerian wants to smile. We want to smile. We want to see what it looks like having the best, if not totally 100%. When you have close to 90%, 90, 95, you as well as saying, yeah, I'm good. If it's not 100%, but you're close to it. So Nigerians are waiting. That's why I like the way the Guardian newspaper has put that headline there, cautious optimism. It's Nigerians are cautious. We are waiting. As much as our optimism are high, we are waiting what magic this man wants to come up with in here. So we are waiting. We are urging and we are praying that may you have the courage and the zeal, the power, the enablement to be able to do it right.
Oh, well, so let's move away from that now. On the Guardian, face of the Guardian, if you pick up the paper this morning, you see the 8 performance indicators of President Muhammadu Buhari. You can go through it there. And the page 21, Buhari's tenure ends, but not his rare economic footprint. The rare there is in quote. Page 21, and I apologize for my difficult choices that cost pains. Buhari tells Nigerians, as on page 6 of The Guardian. And on page 7, operators fault Nigeria Air's launch without AOC registration number. That's all on The Guardian newspaper this morning, and those are the papers we have for you. We'll take a break now. When we come back, it'll be time to speak to our guests to look at all that is happening in the country today. It's all about the inauguration. It's all about the farewell to Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, and all about the welcome to the president-elect who will soon become president, who will soon be president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do stay with us.
Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician, nationalist and journalist, was the first Nigerian to qualify as a civil engineer, surveyor and architect. Born on November 14, 1864, Herbert Macaulay was the founder of Nigeria's National Democratic Party, the first political party in pre-independent Nigeria. Scholars of Nigeria's political history describe Herbert Macaulay as the intellectual bulldog of 19th century Nigerian nationalist movement, in the deference to his qualities as founder and leader of two foremost political parties, Nigeria National Democratic Party (NNDP) and National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC). His matchless versatility in party organization and control kept the British colonialists on their toes in the entire span of his active life. After his death on 7th May 1946, Herbert Macaulay remains a hero of his country, which recognized his anti-colonial struggles. Today, Nigeria's 10 naira coin bears his oval face and trademark moustache. Westernspring Television identifies Herbert Macaulay as a major character in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Westernspring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history. James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and the People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor of Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba social, cultural, and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Westernspring Television identifies Bolaige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Westernspring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the 2 West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkelemens was a natively corrupted version of peculiar mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Westernspring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Westernspring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness in participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Westernspring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Westernspring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ab initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups in the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Westernspring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in the multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to to his country. Westernspring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Bẹ́gùn bá jáde, mọ̀rìnwó la kọ́kọ́ rí, ọwọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ ní síwájú ìjó, ẹsẹ̀ katakata ní síwájú rìn, bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti ń gbúròó wa, a tún ti dé náà nù, ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò Owambe Unlimited, pẹ̀lú èmi ọmọ yín, olólùfẹ́ yín, ọ̀rẹ́ yín, Suliat tẹ́túmọ̀ sí Morenikeji, ẹ lè pè mí ní Susu, tó bá wẹ̀ lómi, a sọ pé ìyálòde àríyá, gbogbo orúkọ tẹ́ ẹ bá pè mí, kò sí èyí tí mi ò ní jẹ yín, ẹ farabalẹ̀, kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò Owambe Unlimited lórí ìkànnì Westernspring Television ní ìkànnì 190, ibẹ̀ ni Owambe Unlimited ń bọ̀ wá, ẹ fàkùrẹ̀ tẹ̀dí, kẹ́ ẹ máa gbádùn ètò àríyá wa.
Wọ́n sọ fún yín pé ẹ máa wo Owambe Unlimited lórí Westernspring Television.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of action.
Thank you for being there, and this is a special inauguration transmission of the Morning Spring right here from Westernspring Television. And in the course of the program for today, we will see how we'll be bringing you clips of what is happening live from Eagle Square this beautiful Monday morning, 29th day in the month of May 2023. 8 years has come, 8 years is here, the final day with President Muhammadu Buhari. He's done his bit, he's done what he feels he could have done, and we wish him the very best as he settles in to become a citizen, a normal citizen, just like every other person at this moment in time. So in the course of this, we will be discussing quite a whole lot. We'll be looking at the inauguration speech by the president-elect just last night, and we'll also be looking at President Muhammadu Buhari's farewell address to the nation. We'll look at Tinubu's gala night speech, and we'll set an agenda into Tinubu's government in the next couple of hours when he becomes officially Mr. President, GCFR of this great nation. This morning, I have great minds who will be assessing, analyzing, and we will be setting an agenda for the incoming government of President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Joining me in the studio this morning, I have a former editorial chairman of Delhi Independent newspaper, Mr. Komi Ademilu. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. How are you? Also, I have with me a lecturer and a legal practitioner at Federal University, Oye Ekiti. It's a pleasure to have, I love to call him the three-in-one man, Engineer Dr. Barrister Dayo Shubwali. Good morning to you, Barrister.
Good morning, and good morning to our listeners out there.
That's intimidating.
It is intimidating. Gentlemen, let's begin at, first of all, let's look at the 8 years of this outgoing government. President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015, when he came with quite a whole lot of hopes. Nigerians had that aspiration that, yes, the man to take us to the glory land is here. 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is coming to an end any moment from now. In your own assessment, Mr. Komi Ademilu, how would you assess his government of 8 years?
Well, I think intellectual honesty demands that I make a declaration of interest. I was determined to be the first person in my area in Lagos, in Yaba, to vote for Buhari with almost ridiculous enthusiasm in 2015. And I remember my wife was saying, why don't you have a sandwich or something? But to be very honest, I think like a lot of people who voted with such almost ridiculous, childish enthusiasm, I was very much let down. Because I saw him as a decisive historical figure like de Gaulle in the similar situation of a broken down society, you know. and there was a general like de Gaulle, and I expected to be decisive, firm, and forward-looking. Look, whichever way you spin it, there have been gains like, I take the rails quite a lot, like I told you before. But when you look at it, it's really disappointing for somebody who was a general in an army, had been head of state before, and given the great expectations that were aroused in 2015, all the decisive decisions of our times were kicked down the road. I'd expected when I voted in 2015 that the Oronsai Commission's recommendation on the costs of the machinery of government will be implemented to the letter and even extended, because things were deteriorating. They were not, with predictably disastrous results. You had an exchange rate mechanism in which the disparity is so absurd that you don't need to work again. If Olanipeku was governor of the central bank, and I had the good fortune of being his friend, and he was giving me 5,000 United States dollars every Monday morning at the official rate, for me, it wouldn't take me 15 minutes to change it at the black market rate. Now, work out that arbitrage. Does anybody need to do any work again? You don't. So, and the result now is that, and then, of course, a general, everybody knew the distorting effect of this fuel subsidy on the economy of this country. And people expected that the response of a general would be to bite the bullet and eliminate it in phases, so that within 2 years, it would have gone. Ruto eliminated the subsidies in his first 20 minutes in office.
That's in Kenya?
In Kenya, just about 6 months ago. So you had a situation with which the decisive interjection, it didn't come. You have a situation in which at the end of it all, contrary to the high expectations that somebody like me had, we have 8 trillion naira. I hope you get the figure right. 8 trillion naira in subsidy payments, benefiting less than 100,000 people, with the opportunity cost of what you could have done with 8 trillion naira in terms of infrastructure, in terms of education. Then you have another 6 trillion naira because of multiple exchange rate arbitrage. That is 14 trillion naira that is just wasted completely. I mean, these are things you can fact check. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, so what was the point? To me, it's 8 wasted years. Because now, whether he likes it or he doesn't like it, the person who is going to be sworn in a few minutes' time, I think, has been given a poison chalice. All the decisions that should have been taken not 8 months ago, not 18 months ago, but 8 years ago, he has to now take it in a very difficult economic climate.
Let me hold you there.
I'm sorry.
No, great.
I went too long.
I like that point. After 8 years, the economic stuff, the incoming administration will be meeting. Barrister, look back to 8 years till this period. Assessing this outgoing administration, will you give it thumbs up or a low mark, or you rather just stay neutral?
Well, naturally, staying neutral is not going to be real. One thing is that I always differ most of the time when it comes to assessing this outgoing administration, because I'm really yet to meet anybody really who believes Buhari is a success. And I strongly believe he has succeeded. The reason is because looking at the metrics, each time we talk about the 8 years of this administration, we always forget, we are very good at summarizing everything within 8 years and looking at this is where it was, this is where it is, without asking ourselves what are the things that happened. Everybody has forgotten we had COVID. We never had it since we were all born. There is nobody alive today who had the similar experience of that global lockdown. It has never occurred before. It occurred. Nigeria, some countries are still facing recession till date. Buhari is the head of this same country. We got into COVID, we came out of COVID, and we came out stronger. Now there are challenges. We look at metrics. At a time, each time we look at metrics, I've always said this: anybody who feels Buhari has failed will be disappointed by Tinubu's administration. I'm saying that without apology, because I have seen a lot of things on social media. We are usually too expectant and not realistic. People think Tinubu will come up now and tell you a naira goes to a naira now is equivalent to $1. It doesn't go that way. It takes a process. Each time we mention Buhari, Buhari is not the only one that runs the government. NAS is there. Now, what have they done? If you look at it, in the educational sector, that's the sector I belong. I've been there for over 20 years now, and I have a lot to say about that. Buhari has been able to give us the Polytechnic Acts. Now, for Polytechnic, the autonomy universities are asking for, they've gotten it. Today, now, if you want to announce a vice chancellor, you don't need to go to Abuja again. The governing council will get it done. The same thing happens in the Polytechnic sector. The governing council has been empowered to pick. In the past, they have to wait and wait and wait until a decision is taken at the presidency. That technically has been corrected. I'm a bit disappointed in the area of the dichotomy between HND and BSc. When I got to know that it has not been assented to by the outgoing president, I felt that there is something wrong which we have not seen, because during the regime of Obasanjo, this has been on. Obasanjo, being an HND graduate, I expected would have done it, but he didn't do it. Jonathan did not do it. Now, Buhari did not do it. So that means that there is something wrong somewhere we are yet to address. You know, one thing we do is we don't get into these details by the time we take some of these decisions. If you look at the number of universities Buhari has created, the federal universities, federal polytechnics, Ayede Federal Polytechnic, Osun State here. Osun State also has a federal university, medical center that we have just been given. Now you look at all these things, they are steps in the right direction. Now if you look at the legal profession, in the legal profession, Buhari has done something that all lawyers understand how powerful it is. In a way, it pays the masses more than the lawyers. How do I mean? You know, today from the new Police Act, when we talk about government is talking of policies, not money. Some people got rich during Buhari's regime, some people got poor. So it's not about what's my financial situation, what policies have been put in place. The Police Act, the new Police Act that Buhari assented to in 2020 has prevented any non-lawyer police officer from prosecuting a case. In the past, lawyers find it easy to get over police officers in criminal cases because the police officer prosecuting the case is not a lawyer. Today, the person who has to handle the case must be a police officer and also a lawyer. So justice will be balanced. These are things we don't see. And they are the framework, the architectural framework on which the country is built. Now, if you look at the business sector, in a way, you realize that the Kama 2020 that Buhari worked or assented to that caused a lot of problems. If you remember then, the only aspect people were focusing on because of the peculiarity of this country is the aspect of NGOs. When the government said if you have an NGO and the churches came up and started saying why are you going to run church for us, because church is registered as an NGO and it's saying that if they could not account, the founders, in quote, cannot account for the financial transactions, they will be sanctioned and the government will take over. That's the only aspect people saw. But you know, that CAMA 2020 has reduced the minimum number required to register a business from 2 to 1, which means that as an individual, you can register business. You understand? In the past, you needed to be 2. If it is less than 2, you cannot. Today, a single person can. Now, going forward again, if you look at that, you discover that even in that same CAMA, you don't really need a lawyer again. You don't really need a lawyer again to do what? You don't need a lawyer to register. You can go online and register your company on your own. These things are part of the architectural framework that has been put in place. During COVID, a lot of reliefs were given. A lot of people would not. I benefited. My wife benefited, but people would not say it. At the time, I think they were giving about is it not 200 or 300,000? There's relief package, and we're expected to pay back. Though as at now, most people have not started paying back. Some schools, institutions were giving as much as 5 million, 4 million, or private owners. People will not say all these things. You understand? When it now comes to the issue of education again, I am not too happy with the way ASU was handled. It became a personal fight between the outgoing minister, or let me say outgone, Dr. Ngige, and ASU. It was not needed. But you know, from some of the steps taken now, the backlog has been paid to a particular sect. Lecturers that are in the medical line, they've been paid. That shows that it's a decision Ngige is trying to enforce on us. During Buhari's first tenure, you remember, you were all saying what Jonathan could not do. They were talking about the TSA. Today, no government organization can hold multiple accounts.
All right. Now, let me hold you. Let's assess a couple of things because we need to move. I want to look at trying to set an agenda for the incoming government. Let's look at the speed at which unemployment, the rate. I'm trying to get the ratio of unemployment as at between 2015 and 2020. Okay, it rose about 7.5%. To about 33.3%.
That's the highest in 17 years.
Yeah, okay.
I think we have been taken away by an alternative reality, I'm sorry, about the Buhari government. The government is a catastrophic failure. The key question in the democratic transition in any time in history, at least in the last 70 or so years, is, are you better off today than you were 8 years ago? That's the question in any democracy, to my knowledge. Apart from a country of people, how many people can say they are better off? COVID or no COVID? COVID is a symptom. COVID had nothing to do with the fact that difficult decisions that we had expected would be taken were not taken. How come COVID or no? Nigeria is not the only country. I mean, this comparison with COVID is like going, that Nigeria is not the only country that had COVID. It's like going to your father, at least somebody of my age group, not you, of when I was a kid.
Yes.
I mean, you can't go to your father and say, oh, Papa, you know, I'm not the only person who failed the exam. I mean, the man's going to get nasty with you. So I think we should leave COVID out of it. The fact of the matter is that the economic record of the outgone government is pathetic. This is the highest level of inflation in 17 years. For me, it is not so much the quantum of the 77 trillion naira debt. It is the fact that the revenue to debt ratio is alarming, to put it mildly. You see, it wouldn't matter if the debt was 150 trillion. But even if Nigeria's debt was 200 trillion, Brazil was owing quite a lot of money, but today they are the 7th largest economy in the world. The fact is that the revenue to debt the revenue to debt servicing ratio is alarming. It's become a state of emergency, and the new government must deal with it. They didn't cause it, but they must be. I mean, they're members of the same political party. So the issue is this: the economic outlook in this country is dire. Nigeria today, as even a JAM student will tell you, is technically insolvent. If the new government doesn't hit the ground running and act decisively by December, January latest, we could be having discussions with the International Monetary Fund about the bailout. You don't have to be a prophet or a seer. It's transparent that that's where we're going to. So the key question now is about the outlook. Not so much a review anymore, but the outlook. The outlook is there. The government, the country is in a state of emergency as far as I'm concerned, because when you are borrowing money to pay salaries, it shows that you are technically insolvent. You don't have to be a cost accountant to work that one out. And the question is, what has to be done? Well, what has to be done is to do those things that the outgone government did not do. You've got to implement the Orosai report, because the cost of the machinery of government in Nigeria is unavoidably pathetic. I mean, they say the myriad of agencies. I read the Orosai report about a few days ago, and in my opinion, it didn't go far enough, because Nigeria today is maintaining about 115 foreign missions. Now, what is the opportunity cost of that? If I wouldn't mind Nigeria maintaining 200 foreign missions, if each of those foreign missions was bringing in, after deducting expenses, say $30 million a year, then I would say we don't even have enough. In the First Republic, the Agent General of the Western region in London was effectively the region's Minister of Transport. I mean, the region's Minister of Export. He coordinated the export of cocoa, rubber, all these things, palm oil. And look at where the Western region was at the time of the dissolution or abrogation of the First Republic. The Western region owned 17 properties in central London. Not in London, in the most including what is now the Nigerian embassy on Northumberland Avenue. Work out the cost today of 17 properties acquired in the 60s. So the situation is a very catastrophic situation. We cannot place a gloss on it and say it's because of COVID. The economic management of this government has been disastrous, and it will be more pronounced as we go into this year and the next, because you cannot continue. Foreign investment in Nigeria is at its lowest in 20 years. These are facts that you can cross-check on your phone.
Okay, sorry. Let me come back to Engineer Barrister Shobowale. Let's look at, I know you said obviously there are certain things that people don't look at to complement his achievements. That's President Muhammadu Buhari's achievement. Let's look at the aspect of minimum wage here. As at 2019, I think it was 18,000. And that's at May 2023, it's been shifted to about 30,000. Now, 30,000 naira today, with the speed at which inflation is in Nigeria, will you say he's done well with that aspect when it comes to minimum wage?
Well, you see, as we always tell you, we have the fruits, we have the roots. When he increased, it was the one that increased his administration increased the take home of core members, and I think they are now on 33,000. Okay. Now you see, the concept is generally as a nation, we have an issue. I would love to wait for when we talk about Tinubu's agenda to say some other things. I told you, anybody who feels disappointed by Buhari, feels Buhari has failed, we should not expect anything from Tinubu, because it's the same ideology. I'm not talking of the political party. I'm talking of Nigeria as a nation. When Jonathan was going, we were complaining. When Obasanjo, you remember one Yoruba singer, I've forgotten his name, sang at a time against Obasanjo. I've not seen a time in this country, the little number of years I've spent here, where we will say this person is leaving this country in a good situation. This has always been the complaint. So if you have been complaining about 5 past presidents, then let's check, where is the problem? Number one, I've said it clearly. It's not, if you look at inflation rate, remember at the time, the news was everywhere, food rise everywhere, even in the UK. Worldwide. These are global issues. You understand? Nigeria remains a consuming nation. We We don't produce, so it will continue. Our population keeps increasing, our consumption keeps increasing, our production keeps decreasing. You understand? So until we begin to produce, I read something before coming to studio this morning that there is this brain implants. A brain implant in Europe now, they tried it. It can bring a paralyzed man to come back to work and to start thinking rightly. You understand? Brain implant. Now, Nigeria will not do brain implants. We will not think along that line. When people talk about government, if I ask you now, which university is the best in the world? The university you are going to mention is what I have at the back of my mind. It's a private university. It's not a government-owned university. Do you understand? And that's the most rated university in the world. So if you look at it, each time we pick this thing each time we pick it from the fruit on the surface, we will keep saying the government is bad. I don't know if you have seen all the videos I've seen, people have started singing, they have made clothes, they've gotten ready, the Messiah has come. No person is the Messiah. It's a collective assignment. The National Assembly is there. The Messiah has come, yes, but they want to pick the Senate President and pick the Speaker, and it's the Messiah. What has changed? Are you getting the concept now? These are the issues we are talking of. We need to look at ourselves systematically. How are we contributing to this? Some of the things the Buhari administration did, which I don't really appreciate, is the rate at which some funds were released towards going out. You understand? I'm not in support of the administration as it were, but by the time you want to assess someone, I'm a lecturer, to assess someone, you don't just pick generally. There are things you look at, and that's the benchmark. Okay, he tried as much as possible to commission this. You remember the train? Yeah. He brought the train to fore. That some people were saying, no, Jonathan started it. With them, his administration was saying, I completed it. Nobody is talking about that. The railway system, they borrowed so much, spent so much. We didn't get as much as they have invested, but we got a railway system. Nobody is going to talk about it. You understand? So by the time you look at some of the efforts, if you look at power, for example, power has been failing not because of this administration. His administration did not privatize the power sector. The previous administration did. You understand? And the agreement side, I'm not privy to it. But from what the little we have been able to gather, it's not easy for the federal government to just replace the people that bought the power plant. You understand? Because of the type of agreement that have been signed. What is it going to do with that? And in this country, until the power sector is fixed and roads, we are just joking. We are just playing.
Mr. Ademilui, let's look at the spate of infrastructure before this present administration, this outgoing administration took over. Would you give him a pass mark when it comes to infrastructural development in Nigeria in 8 years?
Well, there's been a considerable, a noted advance. Like I've told you so many times, I use the rail quite often. I'm quite impressed with it. I wish it got to a show. We have to go to Monia in Ibadan. That was a decisive game because the multiplier effect of 1 kilometer of railway is like times 10 according to the World Bank's figures. So that's a tremendous advance, and I think they should continue to build up on it. Like every capital, every state capital should be interconnected because that multiplier effect is even like times 15. And something like the second Niger bridge. There have definitely been gains in it, but then when you look at there's a critical issue that we don't look at because we don't have a parliament. We don't. As far as I'm concerned, we don't have a parliament in this country. Nobody is looking. What is the cost of all these projects? Because in a country with a proper parliament, we would actually have known by now the cost-benefit analysis of whether it's the railway, the second Niger bridge, etc. So there's that question mark. There have been advances, but there have not been the kind of tremendous advances. I mean, the ports that were built, which is really more of a subnational project in Lekki, is a good advance, actually, because you'll be alarmed, for example, or disgusted. Okay, I didn't send it to you.
Oh, okay.
How can Nigeria have descended so low that the top 10 ports in Nigeria, starting from Djibouti at number 1, so I can't remember there's no Nigerian port there. And yet in 1961, according to the United Nations yearbook for 1961, Apapa Port was the 7th most efficient port in the world.
Apapa Port.
Apapa Port.
So 1961.
The 1961, this is my father's library. The 1961 United Nations annual yearbook was called, not annual report, annual yearbook.
Okay.
The port of Apapa was the 7th most efficient port in the world.
Wow.
And people were still writing editorials in Daily Times and called that is not good enough. Can you imagine? We now have a situation where they listen. You can check it on the internet. I'm surprised I didn't send it to you.
Oh boy.
It came out about 3 days ago. They listed, I think it was Forbes, the 10 most efficient, the 10 best ports in Africa. You and I were not expecting to see a Nigerian port, in my opinion, in the top 20. Well, that goes to show you that we've got to set aside this politics thing and concentrate on governance. Because the situation that we're in now, Nigeria has got to export or perish, like Pandit Nehru said about India, at a similar balance of payments crisis in the 50s. We either export or we perish. How can you export from the kind of ports we have in Nigeria? How can you export with this kind of standard organization of Nigeria that we have? The very concept, the very nomenclature standard is like a sarcasm. Because you can't, if you go to Liverpool Street now in London, and you say you want to buy yam, the yams are from Ghana. What is the level of production? Why you cannot say that, one, you don't have a standard organization that is whose certification is respected. Then second, your yams are going to be destroyed by the time you go through the nonsense of a Apapa Port. It's taking 3 weeks to clear containers in Nigeria, when it's taking 7 hours in the port of Djibouti. I don't believe in the great man theory of history, that one great man like this, he will ride into town on a white. No. History is made by the kind of institutions we have. And I think the new government will be well advised to carry out the kind of institutions, of key institutions, to move this country forward, like the Central Bank of Nigeria. This country has got to find a central bank governor with the fierce urgency of now. You cannot rebuild confidence in the monetary policy of this country, attract foreign investment, and even have, because look, right now, a lot of people are still skeptical about putting money in the bank. That's the kind of destruction that has been done. The other day, there was a woman I wanted to buy just up the road from you, this place at Okefia.
Now, okay, before we move further, Barrister and Mr. Ademili, we'll listen to the farewell speech by Mr. President, the outgoing president. I don't know, probably in the next couple of hours, we'll now begin to get used to
Mr. President.
He is still Mr. President.
I thought he was. He's not Mr. President after midnight.
So let's...
It's got to be Mr. President at 12 midnight. That's not correct.
So I think
he's no longer the president of the country.
No, Tinubu has not been sworn in.
No, the oath taking,
yes,
not swear. The oath taking formalizes the process that started at midnight. Yes. As of now, Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. He's no longer president legally.
So is that legally
acting
legally?
No, the oath taking is not swearing in. He's going to take an oath administered by the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Yes.
In how many minutes, hours, time, right? That does not mean that he did not legally become president at midnight yesterday. He's the president of Nigeria now.
Legally, what happens to the Senate president? Shouldn't he be the one, now that Mr. President is leaving, Constitution has left. Constitutionally, he should be the third man in the hierarchy to stand in and do the needful. Constitutionally, should that be? Or Just ask Mr. Demiluyi.
The House is not yet dissolved.
Okay.
So it's still what is happening in the executive does not affect
the legislature.
The legislature.
Let's go to let's get to watch the farewell speech by President Muhammadu Buhari, the outgoing president. I don't. Let me just stick to outgoing president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please take it up from there.
Expectation was not misplaced because, like the ordinary Nigerian, I had grown tired of watching the country progressively moving away from the path of correctness. To ensure that our democracy remains resilient and our elected representatives remain accountable to the people, I am leaving behind an electoral process which guarantees that votes count, results are credible, elections are fair and transparent, and the influence of money in politics reduced to the barest minimum, and Nigerians can elect leaders of their choice. We are already seeing the outcome of this process as it provided an even playing field where persons without any political godfather or access to money defeated other well-resourced candidates. The Nigerian economy has become more resilient due to the various strategies put in place to ensure that our economy remained afloat during cases of global economic downturns. You would all recall the supply chain disruptions and economic downturn that the world witnessed between 2020 and 2022 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The depthness of our response to the pandemic still remains a global best practice. Furthermore, we increase the ability of the poor and rural Nigerians to earn a living, provide more food for millions in our villages, and give our women opportunities to earn a living. Young men and women in urban centers were also supported to put their skills into productive use. Our administration also provided an enabling environment for the private sector to engage in businesses for which their return on investment is guaranteed. The private sector proved a strong partner in our drive to build a resilient and sustainable economy, as evidenced by the growing number of turnkey projects in various sectors of the economy. In the course of revamping the economy, we made some difficult choices, most of which yielded the desired results. Some of the measures led to temporary pain and suffering, for which I sincerely apologize to my fellow countrymen. But the measures were taken for the overall good of the country. Mindful of the need to ensure adequate infrastructure to drive economic growth, we completed age-long projects and processes, notably among which are the Petroleum Industry Act, completion of some power projects, completion of Second Niger Bridge, and various important roads linking cities and.
All right, thank you for being there. And we listened to the speech of the outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari at that moment. I just want to take a line from that statement he made, where he said he apologized for the policies that he made. Those policies, he had good intentions, but probably one or two reasons those policies didn't favor.
The road to hell. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Gentlemen, let's move ahead right now because of time. Let's look at the incoming government of President Asiwaju. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Asiwaju. We're so used to the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. From your own view, where do you think Bola Ahmed Tinubu should start this job heads on? Barrister.
Well, you see, as I said, picking up, since we are talking about what he should do,
yes,
let's look at what he has been doing. Already, the party now is technically trying to pick someone for the Senate president and someone for
the House of Representatives,
the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And those who are aggrieved, who are members of the party, meetings were being held with them. What's the purpose of the meeting? Promises are being made to them. That's, don't worry. Step down for this person. Once you step down for this person, this becomes yours. You get this in return. That's the issue. That's the normal Nigerian way. We are still continuing the same. You understand? I'm not optimistic. What he should do, it's going to be very tough. Why? Because he needs a second term. He doesn't see this again as an issue. The people who are asking for good governance did not really vote for him. The people that voted for him, you understand, that he still have to go back to, they may not be making too much demand in terms of governance. They will be making demands in terms of their personal benefits. Someone said something. I was pushing a case. He said, all these politicians, are they still going to be the ministers? You know, if you remember, that was where Buhari disappointed a lot of people. He didn't pick his ministers on time.
Yes.
When he picked them, he picked the politicians again. People were like, no, we expected, they didn't think of who made him president. You expected what? So the question is, Tinubu cannot do it alone. Let us as Nigerians first understand that Tinubu will work. The president will work by the constitution.
Okay. Now, let me come to Mr. Ademilui. Looking at Tinubu's pledges and campaign promises, he made a statement yesterday night at the inauguration dinner. He said there will be no basis for excuses. I want to take you. I will take you up on that. Looking at that statement, it carries a whole lot of weight. There will be no basis for excuses.
Yeah, isn't that an indictment of what we had from day one? Lai Mohammed and co, they went on and on about the Jonathan government. Personally, I was very happy when he said that thing, because we don't want to hear anything about Buhari and Jonathan again. You decided to take over a poison chalice. We want to see. For myself, the key realization is to have the kind of intellectual honesty and moral circumspection which is so lacking. Tinubu, 63% of those who voted did not vote for Tinubu. You should bear this in mind and try to construct a big tent. If 63% voted against you, you should have some circumspection that all is not well, that you don't have that decisive mandate, no matter how delirious your supporters are. I hope that he makes key appointments before 2-3 o'clock today. It's already disappointing to me. If I don't mind, I don't know if you mind if I distract a bit. Already I'm a bit apprehensive that the soberness that I expected is not being exhibited. All these dinners, parades and stuff, you know, when a country is in crisis, like when Franklin Roosevelt came in, people were eating from dustbins, you know, and he dispensed with all these banquet parades. He said, look, people cannot be eating in cancers, scavenging, you know, food that have been put over. We have a lot of parties in the years ahead. Are there not happy parties in the United States today? The same thing with de Gaulle in 1958. When they asked him that, what happened to all the banquet and stuff as you have been sworn in today as president? I said, look, the situation in this country is so bad that if we start doing parties now, then after we have finished doing parties, we now tell people they have to make sacrifices. You get what I mean? So I would have wished that there was more soberness, you know, all this inaugural dinner, you know, you get what I mean? Because whether you like it or not, President Tinubu, as he now is, at the head of the government, is going to have to make rather unpleasant decisions that are going to affect you. Look, no matter how you spin any yarn, between now and December, something has got to be done about the fuel prices we are paying in this country that is of the benefit to less than 70,000 people. But it's destroying the prospects of tens of millions, including the tens of thousands coming out of National Youth Service. Whether you like it or not, you cannot continue the fantasy of a dual exchange rate system. The real exchange rate of this country is like 726 naira to $1, which is the rate that you and I have to live with. And so, you know, I expect him to make some very key appointments immediately, chief of staff, secretary to God. And it's good that the constitutional, not constitutional, the amendment has been made now, that a new cabinet, because, I mean, look, how can, you see, people who are praising this outgone government, how can anybody, including me and you and a secondary school student, take 7 months to constitute a cabinet? If you look at the example of Mexico, because of the similar disastrous experience there, do you know that under the Mexican Constitution, if you fact check it, the Tinubu today, under the Mexican Constitution, will have had to announce the ministers' names that he's sending to the Senate. Because of the bad experience they had before, where it took one president almost 2 years to announce a cabinet. So they did a constitutional amendment, which means that as you have been sworn in, you must announce the list of all ministers. Otherwise, the presidency is voided. They ask the Senate president to take over. This man is not serious about this. The Senate president take over. 90 days time, we have new elections. I wish we had done that, because there's got to be some urgency. Look, this country there's no way, nobody, I'm not a member of any political party. There's no spin you can put on it. We're in a very difficult situation. The country is technically insolvent. Don't take my word for it. Ask any accountant how you define technical. Hell, ask an insolvency lawyer. How do you define insolvency? And look at the dire straits we have now. So I hope that the man takes a more business-like approach. He sets up, he appoints within 3 weeks of the inauguration. He doesn't appoint. He sends in the names within 2 weeks of the inauguration of the new National Assembly, the name of minister. And I hope, for the sake of this country, that we have a preponderance of people who have the technical skills. Because one of the problems they have in Nigeria, you have a minister who, after how many years as minister, I think 8 years, if I'm not wrong, or says that he didn't know anything about the job. This is one of the problems I have with the political establishment in Nigeria and the kind of people you send to the Senate. How do you scrutinize or vet somebody who you don't have the job attached? Do you employ anybody at Westernspring Television that you don't know what you are employing? How can you, okay, you say, you just send a list of names. You don't know what you are confirming the same for. In the United States, for example, someone like William Veld, who was an outstanding governor of Massachusetts, Obama asked him, if it was a different party from Obama, Obama sent his name as ambassador to Mexico. After 2 years, it wasn't confirmed. Obama had to withdraw his name as ambassador to Mexico and now send his name back as ambassador to Poland. And it was confirmed within 3 weeks, because they felt that, there was a lot of political infighting, but they felt that William Veld was not suited to be ambassador to Mexico. Now, if we had had a proper confirmation process, which these people don't even have the technical capacity to do, can anybody ever confirm some people in key strategic positions? Nigeria is a country where they confirmed, don't laugh, how can you confirm the governor of the central bank within 4 days in any serious country? A governor of the central bank, chief justice of the federation, these are things that you need about 3 months to confirm, because I mean these are make or break jobs for any country. Like like John Maynard Keynes, the economist, said, he who controls the currency controls the country.
Yeah.
The governor of the country, central bank, actually controls the country in a modern state. Because if you mess up the currency of the country is gone. That's what led to the Second World War. So what I'm still hoping is that he appoints key appointments like Chief of Staff, Secretary to the government, so many key appointments. By about 4 o'clock today, we get away from this sluggishness, convey the impression that there's a fierce urgency of now, and begins to prepare a cabinet list of mainly people and he breaks the mold by attaching offices to the names of those who are going to be confirmed. Because I don't want to mention names, but I think that if the offices have been confirmed to the names of a lot of the people sent in the last 15, 20 years, I'm not sure that even the worst Senate in the world could have confirmed some of those people. You can't remember, for example, I'm sure if I paid down 10,000 naira on the table. let me make you fail your job exam. Who was Nigeria's Minister of Works 2 days ago?
Works? Mike.
No, Minister of Water Resources.
Adamu Mwazu.
Then you're a brilliant guy, because I didn't know who. I didn't know who the Minister of Water Resources is. If you ask me,
so you owe me 10,000 naira.
I'm a man of honor. There's no dispute about that. But if you ask me the names of 2/3 of the outgone cabinet, I'm not sure I can put their names and their, because honestly,
because of that,
I didn't know who the Minister of Water Resources was, and what actually he does, and why you need a Minister of Water Resources in a federation in the first place. So there's a lot wrong.
And there's no water.
And there's no water.
Let's move, because we are out of time now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Barrister, here we are, and the new government president is taking that opportunity to come and serve, as he has always said, I'm here to serve. Now, looking at the space at which insecurity is in Nigeria today, we've seen calamities, tragedies, disasters. Just of recent, we saw what happened in Plateau State. I felt bad online, seeing dead bodies just everywhere. It's actually so pathetic in and around Nigeria at this moment. The space at which kidnapping is, banditry. Where should the incoming president start from to, first of all, calm the nerves of you and I, that we can go back to bed with both eyes closed?
You see, Abacha said something. Any insurgents that lasts
24 hours,
the government is aware. The politicians are behind all this. It's difficult to dissociate them from some of these things. Once it's time to vote, Nigeria comes back to normal. You are my rival for a post. You won. And I want to ensure that the people don't believe in you. What do I do? Find a way. We don't love Nigeria. We only love ourselves. There is no national interest. We have personal interest. Everybody excited about Tinubu's emergence and coming into office now.
Yes.
Is it for Nigeria or for their benefit? Some is just because it's from their tribe. They are not excited because there's anything good that's going to change, but just because it's from their tribe and the other tribe did not win. Some because it's from their religion. Some because maybe it's from their state. Then some because it's from their political party. Now, aside that, what next? You see, one thing we need to understand about insecurity in Nigeria is nobody will solve it if you don't get the roots. We need to get to the root. Where is it coming from? The Nigeria army is about the strongest in Africa. And there is nothing.
The figure says the 5th strongest.
Well, it's,
yes, that's the figures that came out 2 days ago.
That's why I said it's about. I use that word consciously.
Okay.
You understand? It's about the strongest in Africa. Now, we have not had a case where we have any group that can face the army. be it the IPOB, the bandits. You know, one funny thing is that I don't know how the media does it. They find a way of changing the names of these people at the time, but the actions will not change. You know, we are no more talking about Boko Haram now. We are not talking about banditry. At the time, we were talking about Niger Delta. There is a lot of kidnapping and around that area, militancy. Yes. You understand? So by the time you look at all this, Dokubo was in Abuja, and he was saying, he brought some boys and was saying anybody who goes against this inauguration,
and that's a good thing.
It's not. That's what I'm saying.
It's condemnable.
It's not. You understand? Now
the fact still remains, when people make such statements in Nigeria, and because they are close to government, nothing is done. But if you make that kind of statement, or I make that kind of statement, why do we have this? What stuff like this? How can this present government take a curb at all this set of people who feel they can say anything? We saw so many threats before the general election, the presidential election, that if you don't vote for a particular party, it's either you live here or there. All this. How can we get out of this? I know you wanted to make a statement.
I think we should get back to the significance of today.
Yes.
For me, I'm going to be disappointed, obviously, I always am. But a key indicator for me would be for Tinubu to break the mold and appoint the National Security Advisor. There's no such post in the Constitution, just like Chief of Staff. Here we have it, you know. Maybe we should institutionalize. But I'd like to see an NSA who he breaks the mold from this ineffective idea that the man has to be a general or a military top boss. We're not facing an external enemy. The NSA can be a civilian, somebody who has never even been in the Boy Scout. Like I keep reminding, this year is the 69th year of the ABM which changed the history of military strategy and warfare forever. Who led the Viet Cong? The Vietnamese army destroyed the best army in the world in 1954, 69 years ago. Who led the army that changed military strategy forever? The person who led the army in Nguyen Vuong York was a lawyer. He did not spend one day in the Boy Scout, let alone in the guy was a lawyer. He got fed up taking on colonialism in the courts and took up a gun. And you get what I mean? So I'd like to see an NSA who knows that the issue is that of a strategic imperative to contain and then destroy insurgency. You know, no matter the propaganda that at one time they were in control of 22 local governments, look, anybody who believes that kind of thing, go by road from Abuja to Kaduna, go by road from Kaduna to Sokoto and stuff. There's a clear problem of strategy involved in the way we are tackling intelligence. And that's why I give people like Akeredolu in the Southwest, not just him, all the governors in the Southwest. Because if they had not stuck their neck out and insisted on their own security outfit, their Motekun, where would we be today? Where would the agriculture be today? You get what I mean? And that means that the new government, because there is a new government now, forget about all these old taking care, the new government has to really accept devolution of policing powers to the subnationals and to allow it, because, okay, these same people that are so stultified in the past, their own children go to school in the abroad. I use that mistake.
I know.
Their own children go to school in the abroad, where you have university police. Because the police in Osogbo, for example, the federal police cannot just enter Uni Osun without the permission of the vice chancellor, like you have in Nigeria. You know, I told you I was my first week at university.
They should even be an invitation.
This guy accosted me, and the couple said, "You are the guy. You are from Nigeria." So I said, "Okay, you know, I'm a black person. I could be Jamaican." And we laughed and everything. So the guy said, he said he was working for the campus police. That's how he knew I was from Nigeria. You know, I could have been Ghanaian. Okay. So what I'm saying is that we must devolve policing powers, and we must realize that the Nigerian army is trained to fight conventional warfare. It's an indictment of the political establishment and the military establishment of Nigeria going all the way back 40 years. Because I would have expected that, especially after the Maitiseni incursion in the early 1980s under the Shagari administration, this country should have developed special forces, specialized forces who can... Look, if Nigeria had special forces, these people would have not just been contained, they would have been on the run now. Nigeria doesn't, like I think it was you, or I don't know whether it was you or Tunde, I was saying that if you look in Scotland, for example, long before I was born, it was a long time ago, they've had these Highland forces.
Okay.
The Highland forces are not more than about 3,000, but they are trained to fight in the mountains, on the mountains. You can't take those guys on. No Boko Haram, no ISWAP, no Al-Qaeda. They are trained for. The recruiting process is very brutal. Some people even die during the training process. But there's about but I tell you, these people, if you attack that country from the air, if you attack them in the mountainous regions, you can't take those guys out. You can't survive 2 days. They are trained. Just like you have people trained to fight in the coastal, you used to have marine police. The new government has to go back and realize that this whole structure of conventional warfare has gone with the time.
Now, quickly, gentlemen, I'm going to ask both of you here, what should this cabinet look like? And looking at the statements, let me try remember the way Festus Keyamo in the course of the week came out to say the Minister of State for whatever was unconstitutional, that it was so irrelevant. You tried asking me who the Minister of Water Resources was. There were certain people who, in this 8 years of these outgone, we never heard about them. I think it was on this show, Emmanuel and I, my colleague, we discussed, look at Bimsola Saraki. There was one particular name Mike Emmanuel mentioned, and I was like, really, was she part of this government?
Precisely.
What should the cabinet of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu look like from this very moment? Barrister.
Well, you see, if you're a minister, you hold any portfolio, it's not the position, neither is it the power, but the person. You understand? You see,
we are so used to the fact that you put a round peg inside a square hole.
That's what you call it. I'm a realist.
Okay.
There is nobody new. Look at me, for example.
Yes.
Out of all those that are very close to the president, it will take time before you can convince me that this person has a better understanding than my humble self in the sector of education. But does he know me? Is he coming to pick me from my house? What have I done politically? I mean, I've been reading, I have about 8 degrees, so what does it do with that? Are you getting it now? So the idea is, in politics, the people that have served them, stayed with them, is not going out to start looking for Nigerians. He's not going to ask us to apply to be ministers. He's going to use those who are close to him. And I always say this in the university setting. If you are as powerful as the vice chancellor wants you to be, that's the truth. What are you delivering? There are some ministers, the only thing they focus on, they all have their assignment, isn't it? They have their duties. They have their expected duties. They have their offices where they're expected to function. But the question is, what are they doing? Akinwumi, for example, when he served under Jonathan, the Minister of Agriculture.
AFDB.
Exactly. Okay. Look at where he is today. Yes. We stood by him. This woman that... Ogunjo Iweala. Under Obasanjo, I mean, you saw the way, which other minister did you see? Can you easily recollect? It's about the person, not even the post they hold. Do you understand? So these are things we need to understand. And there is no one that Tinubu will pick that is unknown to him. In politics, they talk about loyalty. These are political posts. We have not spoken about the civil service. How committed are the civil servants? How much are they working? Tinubu is not going to pick the vice chancellor of any university. if the vice chancellor is not going to fall from heaven, it's coming from that system. What is the character of that vice chancellor? Who is he? What mindset does he have? TED Fund releases money. What do we do with the money? You see, the issue of Nigeria goes beyond what Tinubu picks. I'm not optimistic. It's about the system. The system needs to be changed. The systems needs to be checked. We need to, if we don't get ready to endure, we are not going to enjoy.
So very quickly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yes.
The failed thing is programmed to fail. If we were electing the right kind of people,
yes,
even before we got into these dire straits, the Senate, as a rule, non-negotiable, will insist that the post must be attached to the name of the person to be considered for clearance or whatever they call it. We know it's not going to happen. So we're back to square one, because the whole problem starts with, how do you, okay, you say you are confirming somebody. You don't know the post you are
confirming him for.
So what are you, they should just scrap that thing. If they can't do it properly, attach the, just scrap, because you know, like, should he scrap that aspect of the office of Minister of State for whatever? Do you think it should, or should it be retained? Well, I mean, it doesn't matter, because I don't, actually, Keyamo is just an opportunist. You got all the salaries for 4 years and then you started complaining. So whether he scraps it or not, I think that's not the end. But I think for me, the key point, actually, there are 3 key points. One, the Senate, they are not going to do it because of the nature of the people that Oladipo can go vote for. They should insist that the post must be attached, otherwise they are not going to confirm anybody. 2, I hope that the predominance, unlike Buhari, at least 2/3 of the people to be nominated are people who are technocrats, who have the capacity and proven capacity or the ability to quickly master certain technical skills. And then I hope that it reflects the diversity of the nation. We cannot go on like this, where in some countries half of the cabinet are women. How many women ministers do we have, or legislators in Nigeria? I hope that we'll have something like about 40-45% women. And I hope the predominance, let me just physically, I hope the predominance, I hope that 80% of ministers will be under 50. Because, I mean, how can somebody like me want to become minister now? You've got it. They are tech savvy, they are on the ball, they are, you know, I mean, you don't walk. I mean. But what I'm saying is that everything I'm saying is not going to happen. And I think in 4 years' time, we will realize the consequences. Because I'm not a seer or a prophet.
I know.
And the key question for me, very quickly, so that you can finish, is that why are sensible things not going to happen? That should bother you.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. I'll hold on to that last part of you. Why are sensitive things? Why is it not bothering you? I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being here on this beautiful Monday morning, 29th day in the month of May 2023, as we change paths from one government to the other. It's been a pleasure being with a former editorial chairman of Daily Independent, Mr. Komi Ademilu. Always a pleasure having you. Thank you for your insightful analysis. And it's always a massive pleasure. I call him the 3-in-1 man, engineer Dr. Barrister Dayo Ali, a lecturer and legal practitioner from Federal University of Ekiti. Thank you, Barrister.
Thank you for having me.
And I will leave you in the hands of Westernspring Television and my very capable directors, whereby they will be doing the needful. Please stay with us. We will be showing you various things in our subsequent bulletins, what is happening live from Abuja. On behalf of my very humble self and my colleague Emmanuel Ujua Dugeli, we'll be back again tomorrow on another edition of Morning Spring. Good morning.